Hello, great and bountiful YouTube Empire. I'm your host, Chiin Ferno, and welcome to Speed Draw. Now, this is a picture that was requested to me by a very dear friend of mine, Bekah. You may recognize her from some of the Happy Panda News Skits. And she's also been in some one or two Let's Play videos of mine. But, so here we're getting started with the line art. And I generally try to get all of my lines done with non-photo blue. Well, actually, no, not non-photo blue. See, I learned in school that non-photo blue ink was, or not even ink, but non-photo blue pencil was the way to go with all this. But turns out you can just use any blue pencil. So I just started using. I prefer mechanical pencils over traditional pencils, so I simply started using blue pencil lead, and that's that. So I generally do all my, underlines with the pencil lead, and then I go over it in ink later so that I can scan it in. And you won't see that process because I'm cutting that out just to save on time, because these videos can get pretty long even though they are sped up. But here I'm drawing Bekah, which was her request. She wanted me to draw her as one of my characters, which she already actually is. I just haven't really drawn her character in a really long time. But and her outfit that I'm putting her in is actually based off of a kimono I saw when I was looking up references for her on Facebook. And I thought it was really pretty kimono, and she really likes Sailor Moon and stuff, so the whole plan was to go for kind of a Sailor Moon vibe. And then I saw that kimono and I was like, I should draw her in that. And so I kind of do sort of a mix, but really it's mostly the kimono with sort of Sailor Moon-esque accents, I guess, is how you'd phrase that. And of course, you gotta have the Sailor Moon hand gesture. And it was around this point that I was starting to realize that the hair just wasn't really working for me. So I decided to do a different hairstyle that she commonly uses, because for whatever reason I couldn't get the hairstyle I had with it flowing out like that to look like her. But as soon as I changed it to the braid, it looked a lot more like her, and I was much happier with it. And the boots are actually from an old design from just middle school, because I've known her since middle school. That's when we met, and we've been friends ever since. And then here's the final product. Well, not the final product, but the fully inked version. And then this is her current boyfriend, Micah. I haven't known Micah since middle school, but I've known him for a pretty long time, since high school definitely. He was in my Japanese class. Initially, my plan was to give him a more outfit kind of similar to resembling Tuxedo Mask, but it really ended up turning out a lot differently than I initially had anticipated. And this image just really kind of, their true essences just sort of took over when I was just designing everything. And the image in my head was a lot different from the image that came out, but I'm much happier with the image that came out than I would have been with the image that was in my head. This sword design I actually designed based off of, there was a picture of him with some samurai dude, and I designed the sword after the samurai guy's hat. And then here I'm adding just some kind of armory stuff like chainmail and such. I never did fix that foot. A few times I planned on trying to fix the foot, but I never ended up doing it. I also was gonna add a cape, but I never ended up doing that either. But I think he's fine without it. And then the one tuxedo mask element is the rose design pattern I put. This time we're working on the flat colors. So these are the final images from last time. And this is actually the first time I've shown myself doing this, where I'm putting them in Illustrator and using the image trace tool to get the dark outlines for the final product. Then here, I just really wasn't happy with her eye. It was like really not in the right place, and it was always bothering me. So you won't see it yet, but you'll see it in a minute when I try to fix it. It was really quite an ordeal. It was both easier and more difficult than I thought it would be. I was hesitating, trying to do my best I can to not worry about fixing it, but in the end it just became too much. I was like, I have to put this in the right spot, otherwise it just looks weird and just doesn't look much like her. And then fixing it just really helped the image altogether. One of my biggest focuses was trying to make sure it actually did resemble her in real life, because, well, it's just one of the things I like to do. I try to make things as authentic as I possibly can when it comes to artwork, in terms of the essence of the character underneath. So like, if I'm drawing a bear, that doesn't mean I necessarily try to make the bear anatomically correct. Now, a lot of times what I like to do is actually pull colors and stuff and sample them from the source material itself. So you don't see it because I cut out any of the references to the pictures I used of her. But I actually pulled all of these colors, well, most of these colors, from actual pictures of her. So the skin tone is accurate, and so is the hair, as well as the shade of blue for the kimono. Tried to make the design as close to the kimono as possible too. And here you'll see I am starting to show my references, mostly just because I don't show her face on them, so I figured it would be okay. I mean, I guess you guys have seen her before, I mean, if you've watched any of the older videos. But and then here's a really old picture, two of them in fact. These are back from the days when she was a character and I just hadn't drawn her since then. That was definitely back in middle school. Also, you might not be able to tell because, you know, two different videos, but I also shortened her feet a bit. I guess for whatever reason when I did the physical drawings, I did them way too long. And so here we are working on Micah again. And just like with Bekah, most of his colors are pulled from pictures of him. Except for that green I made up, I think. Actually, I might have pulled that from a picture too and altered it. And then the tuxedo mask gloves. There's Tuxedo Mask. And the colors I got from Tuxedo Mask's rose, and then I decided to sort of alternate the colors with a darker tone of red, just to add some variety to the design, I guess. And fun fact about Micah, one of the main reasons why I put him in chainmail for this image is because he actually himself has made some chainmail stuff. He's made his own chainmail shirt, I believe, and I think he made a chainmail bag. Either that or I sent him a picture of a chainmail bag once. I'm pretty sure he made one though. But so it was because of that I decided to put him in the chainmail. Background so I can combine the images together, which you'll see in a moment. And there we go, now they're together. And here you'll see someone who you just haven't seen at all before. Now this has been confusing to a lot of people who have already seen the image so far. They're like, what's up with the baby? And I should probably explain that. So the baby, that's actually called Water Baby. And it's sort of an inside joke between myself and Bekah. It's a doll that she's had for... I'm not really sure I don't know the details on the doll, but she's had it for quite some time, I know. And it's always been kind of an inside joke between us and the rest of our friends. So I decided it'd be funny if I just randomly put Water Baby in this picture. And so that's what's up with the baby. So here's the final product. Well, not the final product, but the flats. And hello, great and bountiful YouTube Empire. I'm your host, Chiin Ferno, and welcome back to Bekah's Request. Today, we're working on, as you saw, the digital shading. So those were the flats of the image, and now we are working on the shading of the image. A lot of times what I like to do is, since I don't currently have a tablet, because my last tablet just hasn't really been working very well, and I don't have the pen for my other tablet, so I don't even know if that one works well. So I've been using the mouse for like all of my artwork lately, and so what I've discovered from that, however, is the excellent tool that the pen tool is. That's actually something I learned back at school when we learned about the pen tool, and I finally understood how to use it, and I've been using it ever since. So what I like to do to get nice clean-ish lines is I like to use the pen tool, put it on multiply, and then we got shadows. And I just use a nice shade of blue for the basic shadows, and then I kind of upgrade them later, but for now they're the light shade of blue. And then here I'm working on some of the highlights and stuff. I didn't do too much highlighting in this picture because I didn't really need it. I should note that from an academic point of view, the light logic in this image is... it doesn't really make that much sense. You'll see, especially later when I add in the background in the next video, that the lighting just doesn't really make all that much sense. But I just kind of did what felt right, and I mean, if you're not like looking for it, it seems to work out fine, especially since I didn't put too many highlights in there. I also sometimes like to add little gradients to sort of add to the shadows. Gradients can be really nice at helping with shading, but I wouldn't recommend using only gradients for shading. I used to do that in the past, and well, I've upgraded since then. Getting the shadows on the staff were really difficult. I ended up doing it in two different parts because I could not fit it in one. I guess the staff is a little bent or something. And here are just some light splotches, which I'm realizing now, rewatching this, that I didn't actually go back and do those on Micah. I guess he didn't necessarily need them, but interesting to kind of realize that. Whoops. There are always a few different ways I tend to do glasses. This time I just kind of put a lighter shade of multiply with the blue on it, but normally I go all out and I think I usually use screen a lot of the times instead of multiply, and then these are layer settings. I forget what they're actually called. There's a term for it, but usually I just use screen and then add some highlights and stuff, but I did it kind of simply here. Fun fact about this video, by the way, this is the first video in this particular series for this specific drawing that I haven't used Billy Hatcher music in it. I mean, that's an amazing fact, I know. Your mind is just blown, but an interesting tidbit. You guys are just dying to have some of this music, by the way, save for the Billy Hatcher stuff in the previous videos. All this is YouTube's royalty-free music that they provide, so have at it. It's free. It's also very possible you may have heard some of it before on other videos by other people. I notice that happens a lot, which makes sense. I never did fix those shoes. Or rather, finish. And again, with Micah, lighting makes a little bit more sense than it does with Bekah, because Bekah's lighting, like literally goes the opposite of what it should. That was even something I was saying about while making this. I was like, the lighting is just really wonky, but Micah's actually turned out to make a lot more sense. You'll see that later on in the next video. And of course, you gotta shade water, baby. Admittedly, I didn't put as much effort into shading water, baby as I did with the other two. But here's the final product for this segment. And over in the battle for the YouTube Empire. I'm your host, Chiin Ferno, and welcome back. This is what we ended off with last time. And this time I'm working on the background. As you can see, I was heavily inspired by Sailor Moon. And so I wanted this background to feel as much like something that could have come from Sailor Moon as possible. So obviously I've got my moon, and I'm working on editing that to ensure it's, I don't know, a Sailor Moon. Computer was being really slow at that time. It was very frustrating. So then I used just that sort of dot pattern to make the stars, I wanted them to be kind of more realistic than the ones in Sailor Moon, which are all white, so I just kind of made them multicolored like real stars are. I mean, I guess stars aren't really rainbow, but they come in a lot of reds and like oranges and blues and stuff. And then I tried to make a more cosmic feel. When I was younger, I like always used the cloud feature for my backgrounds, but now that I'm older, I use it a lot more sparingly, a lot more, I guess, advanced. And the stars weren't looking like they were quite enough for me, so I kind of replicated them, and then they became too much, so I made them white and sort of worked on fading them out so they weren't such a big piece of the, a big part of the piece. And now I'm just messing around with the gradients and stuff that I can add on top of this. I end up making several layers of this background so that I can have a bunch of different effects on it to just kind of get the perfect amalgamation of this background that I wanted. With a lot of colors and the moon being very yellow, but at the same time not being too oversaturated. And another thing I like to do with my shading is I often like to darken the shading, after everything's finished, with a dark blue color. Usually that can change from time to time, and then I usually like to layer a lot of different gradients on top of it to give it a sort of, different effect. It's something I don't always do, but on rare occasions I'll do it. Like here, for example, is I'll put the bevel. It's a bevel, but it's called what is that called? I realize you guys are reading it, but I can't read it right now because it's very small. But I usually I don't usually like to do that, but on rare occasions like this one I like to do that. I should know, because I didn't say it earlier, that Micah has also been on a few of my Let's Plays. Probably most notably he was on our Metroid Blast Let's Play. But here I'm just messing with the adjustment filters, trying to get everything perfect, and then I even went in and did specific adjustments on each of the different character assets themselves. Trying to make sure it's not too dark or too light. And then here you have it, the final product, the final product. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, feel free to give it a like. Otherwise, if you're not already subscribed, then hit that subscribe button. It just takes one click. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below. And in my description, there are links to my social media and other things, Twitter and stuff. And you can also feel free to check out some of my older speed draw videos. But with all that said, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.